the power of numbers, like we've talked about before. The more people you
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to WJOB 1230 AM and 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. And this is the morning call with Tom Dabertin. We'll be here until 9 a.m., although at 7:30, John Doherty's coming in, and at 8:30, the Whiting Robertsdale Chamber of Commerce show will take the airwaves. So we'll be with you until then and look forward to all of your calls. But good morning to Lynette. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? I'm good. Can you hear me?
Good.
Or
Yes, I can. Nope, I can hear you fine.
okay, so all right. I think I fixed it then.
You certainly did. And everything sounds okay on your end for me.
Yes.
All right, very good. Well, let's begin with traffic and weather. Traffic this morning looks pretty good on the area expressways, 8094, the toll road, I-65, Klein Avenue, all look good this morning. Going across the line in Illinois, it's actually also good news. 294 looks good, the Bishop Ford, the Dan Ryan, Lakeshore Drive, the Chicago Skyway are all in good shape. Area expressways in Chicago, not in bad shape right now. Of course, we're talking about 6 a.m. They're always subject to change a little bit later. But right now, it looks pretty smooth sailing through the Chicago area. So with that, let's do weather.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 36 degrees with highs of 49 and lows of 41. It's going to be mostly cloudy today, and later time we'll be having areas of fog with periods of rain and a thunderstorm. And then tomorrow on Thursday we'll be having highs of 47 and lows of 40. So it'll be cloudy with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm early into the afternoon. And then Friday we'll be having highs of 73 and lows of 53. So it'll be cloudy and warmer with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm, and then breezy in the afternoon.
Sounds like for 3 days, your car is going to get washed.
Yep.
All right. 845-1100 is the number to call. Lots to talk about, of course. The ongoing war with Iran creates a lot of issues, a lot of challenges, a lot of concerns, rightly so. So I want to talk about that. Also want to talk about some local stories. I still find it very interesting that all of the concerns and all of the debate about NIPSCO got pushed to the back once the Bears issue came up, and hopefully, we'll hear more about what they're doing downstate to try and help us because those bills keep on rising. We have a couple of other things to talk about this morning. Of course, Mark from Hobart. Good morning, Mark. He just texted me. It's hump day, so I want to get that out there. I saw Bill Clinton testified last Friday, and I'm going to tell a funny story about Bill Clinton. I actually met him, and want to talk about, of course, the issue with the Chicago Bears as well. Don't forget, Taste of the Region is coming up March 6th, and wondering about voter feelings about Bo Bai, who is Evan Bai's son, Birch Bai's grandson, about him running for Secretary of State. And he's largely running on the family name, and just curious to see how people feel about that. He's a young man, 30 years old, but largely he is running on his family name for Secretary of State in the state of Indiana. So those are just a couple of the topics that I think we can talk about this morning. Of course, most of all, we want to talk about whatever topics you want to talk about. So give us a call at 845-1100. Again, we're going to be here until 7:30 unfettered. Then we're going to have John Dabertin on for half an hour. Then we'll take a quick break, come back, do some more calls, and at 8:30, the Chamber of Commerce show. So, again, lots going on this morning. I do want to talk about the Bears especially. I think a lot of people, it seems, including some of the people who sit in as hosts on these airwaves, have been kind of ganging up and jumping on Tom McDermott. And let me put things in perspective. I am not here to be his spokesperson by any means, but I found it interesting. He kind of lashed out last week on his podcast about some of the hosts on WJOB. And he does have a valid point, and that is, or a couple of valid points. First of all, he didn't go and pursue the Bears. The Bears pursued Hammond. So that's issue number one. So if you're not happy with the Bears coming to Hammond and some of the impact that it'll have, you really can't blame Tom McDermott, because Tom McDermott wasn't driving the boat. Okay, he wasn't captaining the ship. He wasn't in charge of this. It actually came from the Bears to the state of Indiana, and the state of Indiana really basically came up with the location. And many other communities in Northwest Indiana wanted the Bears, but the Bears settled on very early on a site in Hammond. Secondly, there was some criticism that somehow he stole the idea from Gary, which is just total hogwash. And I think that if you're going to be on the radio here as a host, you've got to tell the truth. And there's no basis for that claim. And I'm sorry. I can understand why he was pretty upset. Again, he did not recruit the Bears. This was dropped on his lap. And can you imagine if he were the mayor of Hammond and the Bears wanted to come here and he said, hell no? Okay, people would be screaming and hollering about that. So it's kind of a no-win situation for him. And again, I can understand his frustration. I hope that he'll come on with me in the coming weeks and explain the situation, how it unfolded, and how the Bears actually came about having an interest in Hammond. I still don't believe that they're coming to Hammond. I don't believe they're coming into Northwest Indiana. I think we're getting used largely in a shell game, but that's my opinion. 845-1100, we've got full phone lines, so let's go right to the callers. Good morning. Morning. Do you have anybody?
I don't think they're there.
Okay, we'll go on to the next call. Good morning, you're on the air. Hello, good morning.
All right. I think we're having some problems with our phones again.
Full phone lines, folks, but we can't hear the phone calls. Give Lynette a second to resolve this. I'll keep talking, and hopefully we'll get it working in just a minute. But again, I think that the challenge for being the mayor of Hammond, or any mayor, is that when the state of Indiana and when the news media and everybody else comes knocking on the door, and they come up with this proposal, if you will, to bring the Bears to Hammond, I don't see how the mayor could say no. I don't see how he could do anything except what he did. He was fairly cautious. He was supportive, and then he gets blamed for other communities on top of that not getting the Bears. even though this wasn't his idea. It was something that he basically was thrust upon him. I actually, you know, have to say it's a very difficult situation to be in, and there are a lot of unanswered questions. Again, I'm not saying that I'm 100% sold on the idea of the Bears coming, and frankly, I don't believe that the Bears are coming. I think that it's just been a ploy for the Bears to use as leverage with the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago, and ultimately, I think they'll either end up in downtown Chicago or Arlington Heights. I know some people say they think that it's the other way around, that it'll be Arlington Heights. I personally believe that the Chicago Bears and the NFL love the view of the Chicago skyline and that lakefront view. And I think they're going to ultimately find themselves in Chicago, but that's just my opinion. So 845-1100. Well, what do we think?
Um, Texting Chuck right now, so it might be a while.
All right. Well, we'll continue to talk, and folks, as soon as we can get you on, we'll get you on. But we're having problems. I had just texted Lynette a few minutes before the show and said, "How are the phone lines today?" And she said they should be great, no problem. So there lies the problem. As soon as I asked, it was my fault. Um, but it's and I'm getting a text also, just so you know. Uh, that was MX, and he said he couldn't hear my voice, so he could not hear when we connected on the phone. So I don't know if that helps Lynette, but that's what MX said when he was trying to call in. So again, let's take a look at the situation with Iran. Um, I get it. Iran has been a enemy of the United States, a sworn enemy of the United States since 1979. The Ayatollahs have, basically chanted death to America, called us the Great Satan. I am totally frightened by the idea that Iran could get a nuclear weapon. On the other hand, when it comes to regime change and uh, those kinds of issues, the United States doesn't fare very well. Okay. We can go in, we can bomb Iran, we can destroy their military. They're no match for us. At the same time, what happens afterwards? Do we just leave it in crumbles? What do we do? What is our responsibility after we defeat Iran? Who's going to take over? And there are a lot of fanatics, a lot of extremists in Iran. So, do we replace the Ayatollah with another Ayatollah, with another person that is just as unreasonable as the person that was there? Or, can we find some middle ground? Can we find somebody that's moderate who would take on that country? Because that country's got a lot of challenges. It's oil rich, but it's backward because largely it hasn't progressed in many ways since 1979, except in its military applications. So it builds good drones. In fact, the United States actually took their drone and copied it and improved it, and now is using it back on them. And that was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff who said that yesterday. So there are a lot of challenges with Iran. Closer to home, it's raising gas prices. Look, we were told we need to improve our economy. We all know that. And part of the economy is the cost of transportation. And so cheaper fuel means cheaper prices. And now we're going to have higher prices because of an increase in the cost of oil due to the conflict in the Persian Gulf. So there are a lot of things that come to play. And when you talk about, it's not just some airstrikes. We are doing an all-out bombing campaign to remove all of Iran's military capabilities. And there's part of me that says that's the right thing to do. If you're going to go in there, you may as well do it to win, and not to come in second place. And I think that's um, you know that part of the equation is justified. The problem is that it's not the full equation. So how do our actions in Iran um, finally end up? We bomb the daylights out of their military. We remove their military. We remove their leadership. Now, who leads that country, and how do we basically um, move forward after that? Because one thing's for sure, when it comes to the world, the U.S. is the dominant superpower, and so we're going to have a responsibility, and we're going to, basically be on the hook for probably a lot of things we don't want to do. And when it comes to nation building, we don't do a very good job. We've had a lot more failures than successes by any means. So I don't want to say 845 1100 just yet because I think Lynette's trying to reboot the system. If I'm reading over her shoulder, so just give us a second, folks, and we should be able to get on the air and take your calls. Again, this morning we've got the Whiting Robertsdale Chamber of Commerce show at 8:30. We have John Doherty's coming in at 7:30. So we'll be able to do those interviews regardless of the phone system. But there's a lot to talk about. There's also a few things that concern me about these so-called sleeper cells. We saw one incident in Texas, in Austin, I believe, but that's the only incident that we've seen. And we've been told for years that Iran has loaded this nation with sleeper cells. And that really concerns me because I want to make sure that if we're going to be in a war, that war stays overseas and it doesn't come to basically to our borders, to our soil. And that does concern me. I'm concerned about my kids, your kids, grandkids, and everybody else in between. And when we take on a group of lunatics, as Marco Rubio called them yesterday, you don't know what they're capable of, and it does create some cause for concern. So, was all this thought through? I've seen reports that say the FBI and others are on high alert. That's great, but we've also been told for many, many years, for several decades, that we knew that Iran had snuck some sleeper cells into this nation and could create some real havoc. So, just a real concern for me and for you. And again, first and foremost, we want a safe country. We've talked about the need for secure borders. We had for 4 years, anybody and everybody could walk across that border. You don't know who came here, and we don't know where a lot of those people are. And so that's a concern as well. Does any of that come to fruition? I hope and pray that's not the case. I truly do. I don't want to see harm to anybody. I wouldn't want to see harm to my worst enemy in this country. We want to be safe and secure, and we want to be able to go to sleep and wake up in the morning without worrying about those kinds of issues. And all of those issues that we've heard about for years now basically are front and center to us. So, again, do we have some cause for concern about these sleeper cells? We've been told for decades by both parties, by the Republicans and the Democrats, that they're there. So, do we have to be concerned now that this is the time where they basically activate these cells and do some harm in the United States? Okay, we've got some callers. We're going to try the callers again. Good morning. You're on the air.
Let's see if this worked.
Good morning.
Wait, hold on.
Hello.
There you go.
There we go. Great to hear you this morning. Go ahead.
Well, between the North Koreans and the Ayatollahs, the people who scared me more than anything with respect to nuclear war were the Ayatollahs. The North Koreans, in my view, were crazy like a fox. But these Ayatollahs, I mean, my goodness, look what they're doing. They're slinging missiles at over 10 Arab countries, including Oman. Oman, my goodness. Oman is, as Arab countries go, a peaceful country. Even Christians can live there in peace, and yet they've fired a missile at Oman. It's just, I mean, these people are just. They've also hit Europe. They launched a missile at Cyprus. That's a part of Europe, and don't you think that from the Iranian point of view, as you said, they're led by despots, by lunatics, if you want to use Marco Rubio's term, and they don't care. They thought that they would be able to take on the great Satan
and they're basically kind of playing their last hand militarily. So do they really care who they shoot missiles at right now?
That's the point. And the interesting thing about the history of this, going back to 1979, the United States military had close ties to the Iranian military, and any case, when it looked like the Ayatollah was maybe coming back, the Iranian military told the Jimmy Carter administration, "Look, you don't understand these people. If you think we're bad, they're 1,000 times worse. Let us take care of these. It's not going to be pretty, but it'll save a lot of grief over the long haul." And Jimmy Carter said, "No, no." So in effect, Washington aided the rise of the Ayatollahs in Iran because they had an option to
that's a
put an
very
end to
good
this
point. That's
madness.
absolutely true. The U.S. basically allowed the Ayatollah to take power. I mean, we had a pretty strong hand in Iran in the late 1970s, and we thought that it would be best for the Ayatollah to take control. So we did get what we asked for. You're right about that.
Yes. Yep. I mean, just as Washington aided the rise of the Red Chinese back during the Clinton administration, and that he strongly advocated to sponsor membership of Communist China in the World Trade Organization. I wrote letters to conservative Republican congressmen saying, because this had become almost like a bipartisan thing. And I said, "Are you people crazy? I mean, we've fought at least 3 wars with these people, and if you think the communists are going to become Scandinavian Democrats, you're idiots." Because that was the argument they made, that, well, if we bring them into the economic Western sphere, that they'll become nice little Democrats. I mean, are you crazy? To come to power, the communists murdered over 50 million of their own people, for goodness sake. Look at the results. But in any case,
blame Clinton. I think when you look at communist China, I think that it's been one misstep after another. I think you can put Truman into the equation. You can certainly throw Nixon into the equation. I think we've basically mishandled the Chinese for decades. Kind of like Iran. I see the point now. We've misstepped with Iran. We've sent them money. We've given them. We've unfrozen their assets. We've done exchanges with them on hostages, on some really despicable people that we gave back to them. And now we're in a very difficult situation. So I agree with you to the sense that we haven't handled Iran very well. I don't know that we can blame anybody. I do just want to point, by the way, that the phone lines are now working. So give us a call at 845-1100, as Walt has. And just want to point that out. So again, Walt, what do you think is the end game, though? I mean, what do we do? So we bomb the daylights out of their military, and then what?
Well, I think that's step one, because there's no doubt in my mind that they intended to develop a nuclear ICBM striking power to threaten the United States. I mean, look what they're doing to the 10 plus Arab countries. They've struck Europe and Cyprus, and their ambition was to go far beyond that. And I can tell you that if something was not done to put a stop to them, step one, destroy their military capability down to the bare metal. And no Vietnam era throwing bombs on dirt roads and so forth. And
what's step 2?
And I mean, about 2 weeks, about 10 days ago, you had there was an idiot general retired who said, if we attack, we should go in light. And I thought, you idiot, didn't you learn anything from Vietnam in terms of air power? And so I was delighted to see that the Orange Man decided to go big, no fooling around, and that's their objective. They want to destroy their military capacity down to bare metal.
Well,
and
that's
hopefully
that's step one. But what is step two? And that's what I'm wondering. And I think a lot of people are wondering, what's the next step after bombing the hell out of them? Then what?
The step has to be taken by the people of Iran. Now, I think things can be done, especially with the Ayatollahs are very unpopular in Iran. I mean, they don't like him very much, and younger Iranians tell their parents, "Why were you so crazy to support this guy? I mean, please, I mean, were you nuts?" But they're very unpopular, and at the end of the day, just like the Americans ended up taking on the premier military and political power on the face of the planet at the time to fight for our independence. If you would look at the facts cold-bloodedly, it was a very foolish move for the American independence movement, which was not universal. I mean, a third of the Americans supported independence, a third supported staying with the British, and a third sat on the fence. And of course, I
appreciate the call. We've got to move to a break. And again, the phone lines are now working, so we worked out the technical difficulties. 845-1100. Let's go to a quick break. This is the morning call on WJOB 1230 AM and 104.7 FM. We'll be right back.
For over 100 years, Roofers Local 26 has been keeping Northwest Indiana dry and safe. Since 1919, our highly trained members have built a reputation for skills, safety, and reliability. With a 4-year apprenticeship and certifications in OSHA safety, first aid, and CPR, we deliver quality you can trust. When you need roofing done right, choose Roofers Local 26, protecting what matters most for over a century. For more information, visit www.roofers26.com.
Tech Credit Union supports the essential role of union labor in building strong communities. That's why we offer hassle-free banking, financial empowerment, and a commitment to your success. Save for the future, handle life's challenges, and trust a partner that stands by hardworking union members. Tech Credit Union, the better option for you and your money. Visit techcu.org or call 800-276-8324. Tech Credit Union, supporting union families every step of the way.
Summer's coming, and Deep River Water Park is taking applications for all positions. We have jobs both inside and out for all ages that offer great benefits. Free admission on your day off for you and a friend. Free uniforms, paid training, make new friends, flexible scheduling, and more. To apply, just go to deepriverwaterpark.com and you're on your way to a summer of rewarding fun.
Deep River Water Park. It's simply splash-tastic.
Introducing Powers Health, a health system with a new name and a strong legacy of caring for families in our community. One with a tradition of advanced specialized services and a vision for the future. One with a commitment to medical excellence and compassionate care. Everything we do, everything we believe, powers health.
All right, folks, we're back. It's the morning call with Tom Dabertin on WJOB, and it's always an honor and privilege to be here with you. We're going to be here with you until 8:30 this morning. We're going to switch gears to the Whiting-Robertsdale Chamber of Commerce show. And also at 7:30, John Doherty will be in to talk about sport medicine. So we've got a great morning ahead of us. But right now, just looking at traffic over in Illinois, because Indiana looks pretty good right now. It's starting to build on the Bishop Ford, just to be aware of that. The build starts about 106. So not too bad right now, but just be careful as you go around the turn into the Ryan, it starts to build. With that, we have some callers. And I think Lynette's got somebody that she's talking to. So There we go.
Sorry. Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 36 degrees with highs of 49 and lows of 41. It's going to be mostly cloudy today. Later tonight, we'll be having areas of fog with periods of rain and a thunderstorm. And then tomorrow on Thursday, we'll be having highs of 47 and lows of 40. It's going to be cloudy with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm early into the afternoon. And then on Friday, we'll be having highs of 73 and lows of 53. So it'll be cloudy and warmer with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm and breezy in the afternoon.
So there you go. And there is Jed waving to me, and I'll wave back to Jed. Good morning. He can, glad to see you. And we'll go back to the callers. I think we have some callers now that we've gotten the phone lines fixed. I'm getting some text messages saying people are trying to call in. So with that, let's go to the calls. Good morning. You're on the air.
Death to America. Now let's hold that for a little later. The best news I've heard today, and I was watching it all night, is Jasmine Crockett has been defeated. And that's a great thing. Right now we got her at McDonald's handing out McDonald's to Donald Trump. We have, in MX cartoons, we have Pritzker in the pool with Clinton. Because Clinton said Pritzker gave him his start. Yeah, I mean, he's telling on himself. And then, what's his name? Clinton said that he exonerated, what's his name? Trump, Donald Trump. But let's
basically let's take each of those because let's go with the last one. Clinton. When you think about the fact that Clinton made the statement that he, as far as he knew, Donald Trump was not involved with Jeffrey Epstein, that's really a significant statement because there's no love lost between the Clintons and Trump. The fact that Clinton went out of his way to make that statement, I think, is pretty remarkable, and it hasn't gotten the play that it should have gotten because it's kind of like the Ayatollah saying that Donald Trump was a nice guy. I mean, it's really it's pretty remarkable that he said, "I don't believe that he was involved." Okay, and so for a lot of Trump haters, that's got to be pretty tough to take that message. As far as your comment about Jasmine Crockett, MX, I hope this is the end of Jasmine Crockett. My fear is that she's going to become a commentator on CNN or MS Now, and we're not going to see the last of Jasmine Crockett.
Or the View on Tuesdays. But anyways, let's wind this back up with Death to America. You got to remember now about Death to America. I want everybody to remember this. Anything out of this whole thing, Death to America, let's go back to Jimmy Carter. I'm not going to pick on Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter was a real man, okay? The reason why there's MX is because it's Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter had a program for apprentice school. And because of Jimmy Carter, I got to go to apprentice school. But when Jimmy Carter, he was man enough to keep it to himself and take the blame. When they went into the desert and they went after all the hostages with the helicopters and tanks, they didn't go. They went in with paper filters instead of foam filters, and all the dirt bike riders looked at themselves and chuckled and said, "What did you do?" Now, if you have any kind of a brain, and if it was any other president, they would have blamed the military, whoever it was prepping these vehicles, that you should have foam filters like you do in a dirt bike. And Jimmy Carter took that hit. So he's a heck of a man. So we lay off Jimmy Carter. But as far as Death to America.
Also, I don't know if callers would totally agree. I mean, you're giving Jimmy Carter credit for your career. I'm not sure that that's a good thing or bad. I'm just joking. I agree. I think that Carter, for what it's worth, he made a lot of missteps as president. But you're right. He took responsibility for those mistakes, and of course, it cost him dearly in the 1980 election.
And now, Death to America. We can never forget Death to America. Iranians holding the flag, burning the flag. Death to America. what they did to all the prisoners in 1979, the U.S. coal where they got all those Navy men. And the other one is all these liberals that are listening, that Iranians are happy that they have freedom. Now it's up to their own. We can't do everything for them, but Donald Trump at least, it's better than Obama. Let's go back to World War II. Let's put this in perspective. If Eisenhower gave money to the Germans, like Obama gave pellets of money to Iran, what do you think Patton would have done? Why would and our other Congressman Boslavsky, he was for the Iran nuclear arms deal where I think they gave $1.5 million to people that hate you. Why would Obama do that?
$1.6 billion. It was $1.6 billion that we gave to the Iranians under the Obama deal.
What's a billion amongst friends? Now, here's what really worries me. These protesters now. And I'm going to let you go. Are these protesters that are around town, are they going to drop everything and grab the Iranian flag? And then I know that we got some real loonballs around here. And don't be putting out on Facebook where, hey, Iran, Trump lives over here. That's a threat, okay? That's a threat on Facebook. And all you people think that Facebook's just some little joke. There's people watching. But when you circle where Trump lives and you put, hey, Iran, that's a big threat. I got to let you go, Tom, okay?
All right. Hey, thanks so much. And I've seen a few of those posts, and I think they're absolutely egregious. And one in particular that I think MX has seen and I've seen, and that's from somebody who's actually a school board member and in East Chicago, and it's absolutely egregious. In a time of war, and that's what we're in, you don't post those kinds of things. You don't make threats against the president in the first place. But when we're in a war, you have to at least show some support for the United States. 845-1100 is the number to call, and I think we have some more callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Tom, this is Rick. You're talking about the Bears, coming to Chicago. Coming to Hammond. Yes. Yes. I think there's two communities in that area that would really, 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 really benefit. One would be Hammond. One would be Whiting. And I think the other one would be if you get some investors, some private investors, and start building some restaurants and bars, Hegewisch. The train, South Shore goes to what? Goslin and Holman. So how are the people getting off the South Shore? How are they going to get to the stadium? Are they going to invest millions of dollars in the buses? Are they going to get to Gary Transit?
But see, this is the problem with this whole proposal of the Bears. It kind of dropped on everybody, including Mayor McDermott. All right. So it just got thrown out there. It was thrust upon us all of a sudden, in 6 or 7 weeks' time. The Bears are taking a look at coming to Hammond. And I agree with you. There could be some very positive elements if it actually happened. But the reality of it just tells me that it's still unlikely. I still have a hard time believing that the Bears will actually end up in Hammond. If they do, okay, that's one thing. But I still think this is largely a ploy to put pressure on the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago. Secondly, the package, it's always the devil is in the details. And the package that the state of Indiana is proposing also adds a lot of costs to a lot of communities that would not benefit from having the Bears in Hammond, Indiana. For example, we talked about this last week, putting a food and beverage tax on the people of Porter County. How do Porter County businesses and residents benefit from the Bears in Hammond? No more than the Bears currently at Soldier Field, and I live in Whiting-Robertsdale. So I'm closer to the Chicago Bears right now than the people in Porter County would be if they located in Hammond. Explain to me how those people would benefit. So there's a lot of issues and a lot of things that still need to be sorted out about this idea of the Bears coming to Northwest Indiana to Hammond. You're right; it would have certainly some positive impact on Whiting, on Robertsdale, on North Hammond. Most likely it would have some positive impact on Hegewisch. Hegewisch, of course, wouldn't have to pay the freight for it. So, that's a win-win for them. But, there's a lot of unanswered questions, Rick.
Well, I just don't want the people to be fooled like they were with the casino. The two greatest restaurants in that area, Phil Schmidt's was known nationwide, and they end up closing because they want you to go to the casino and you use their steakhouses and use their restaurants and do everything there and then leave and go home. Don't be fooled, get these places in. And, do I want to spend $20 for a beer at the stadium, or can I just hold myself and just wait till the game's over and go to a nice restaurant in Robertsdale or Hegewisch, that area?
Again, there's a lot of. I brought this up the very first time I heard about the Bears. There are a lot of challenges when it comes to transportation through that area. You cannot say that all of the traffic's going to come off the toll road and right to the Bears location. It's impossible. They're going to enhance the local roads. So what happens to Calumet Avenue? How does that affect the businesses and the residents along Calumet Avenue north of where the Bears would be going? There are a lot of questions that have to be answered with this issue. And again, I think I understand that, the state of Indiana felt they had to act very quickly. But what I do find very difficult is the fact that people want to blame, they want to blame Mayor McDermott. And again, I'm not here to be a spokesperson, but they want to blame Mayor McDermott one way or the other. They're happy that the Bears are coming. They're blaming McDermott because they're saying that he didn't think through the plan. They don't want the Bears. They're blaming McDermott because the Bears are coming. This is a guy who basically had this dropped on him just like everybody else in the region. He was not, it wasn't his plan. It wasn't his idea. It was kind of thrust upon him. And then people are going to complain. And then you have somebody on these airwaves who is making a completely false allegation that the Bears were ever going to Gary. They were not going to Gary, Rick. They never had any interest in Gary. And it's just wrong to sit there and make that claim. And then to say that McDermott stole the Bears from Gary. That's just not true. There's no proof of it.
No.
So let's not make up stories and make things worse than they already are.
I agree. All right. Thank you.
Thanks for the call. 845-1100. We've got more callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
What's up, tough guy? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Mad Mac?
Good. How's the dogs doing down in Florida?
Actually, they're doing great. Sophie almost got on camera this morning when we were having the phone difficulty. She walked over, and I thought she was going to stick her head up, and we were going to get her on on YouTube Live, but she's decided instead to take a nap. She's laying right by my feet right now. And Luna is sitting basically on her bed right in the windows, right by the sliding door to the balcony. So she's taking a look outside, and Sophie is sound asleep next to my feet.
Hey, and speaking of people coming on camera, don't let Jed on your show. He couldn't even. You should have heard the disaster his show was yesterday. But I digress. Hey, are you calling Hurley a liar?
I heard. And let me just hold on. Let me just address one thing. Look, I don't know where or why they started talking about defeating drug tests, but it is a fallacy. The idea that was mentioned about strapping a pee bag or a bottle with pee to your leg, that approach will be defeated every single time when it comes to drug testing. They test the temperature of the urine. And so it's not going to be anything close to the body temperature if it's strapped to the outside. That's a waste of time. I know plenty of employers who use drug testing. I've been involved with this for more than 25 years, and I can tell you it never works. They always catch the person. Their pee is 73 degrees. That tells you that the person is either dead or they're using a false specimen. Go ahead.
Wait, you're telling me that on yesterday's show on WJOB, the owner and Verley discussed how to defeat drug tests?
I don't know the details. I saw the little snippet. I actually got a couple of text messages and messenger messages last night. One person said, I'm not sure that I'm listening to WJOB again if we're going to tell people how to defeat drug tests. The fact is that what was said was just totally wrong. It doesn't work.
Wow.
It does not work.
The lows get lower. Holy moly. So, yeah, Gary never had a chance, it sounded like, huh?
Gary was never in the equation any more than Portage was, or Crown Point, or St. John, or any other community. The community that the Bears wanted from the get-go, from the very first day when they first announced it, was they were interested in that Hammond site. If you go back to the very first announcements, they said that they were interested particularly in a site in Hammond. So this idea that McDermott stole the Bears from anybody else is ridiculous. He never stole the Bears from anybody. In fact, he was as dumbstruck as anyone when it first came out. He had no idea. I mean, he was basically approached by the press, who said the Bears are saying that they may look at Indiana and that they're interested in coming to Hammond. And if you go back and you look at McDermott's original posts, he's like, well, from what I understand, they're interested, and certainly we'd be interested as well. It's a game changer. It'd be great for our community, but I don't know a whole lot of details. That's where it started. He wasn't the guy driving this. He didn't go to the Bears and say, hey, locate in Hammond. He was approached by the state of Indiana, and he said from the get-go, the state of Indiana was leading the process, not him.
I don't know. Verley says they called her first. So you guys might have to come in the studio for a little debate. But hey, speaking of
claims a lot of things. She claims a lot of things. And look, she's entitled to her opinion, but her opinion is that it's her opinion. It's not based on fact. There is no proof whatsoever that the Bears ever came to Gary first. They had no interest in Gary, and she has no proof of that. And again, it's as ridiculous as talking about about how to defeat drug tests.
Well, it sounds like you're calling her a liar, but I'll leave that to the knuckleheads on the chat board. But hey, you mentioned the sleeper cells. I thought that Al Green guy from Texas and Jasmine Crockett, and actually the entire Democratic Party, I thought they were a sleeper cell because they always seem to be working against the United States.
We'll say that the division in this country has never been greater. We would have lost World War II if World War II would have occurred today with the mindset and the approach people have. It used to be
that people came.
Well, it used to be that people came together and said, "Look, we may not necessarily totally agree with the president, but we're going to support our troops, and we're going to, we're going to take a stand and kind of agree to disagree." And that's not what happens now. Now we've even got people out in the streets who are basically mourning the Ayatollah's demise. This is a guy who wanted to literally nuke us. And we have crazies who are marching in the streets saying he was a decent guy. The Washington Post wrote an obituary about him, making him sound like he was a really decent guy. This is a horrible, horrible maniac.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it, man. It was like, oh, he was a good guy. He read stories to all his grandchildren. He was such a great father. What are you people out of your minds? He almost sounds, actually, that obituary almost sounds as crazy as I think the guy is on the school council or the, what do you call it, the education board up in East Chicago. That dirtbag named Jesse Gomez. Did you see what he put on Facebook?
Well, I did see that, and I think that's what MX and some other callers were referring to, and I think it was totally egregious. And I think that he should post an apology for him to post a photo of or a map of West Palm Beach and to have Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago circled and say, "Hey, Iran, here he is." That was just totally wrong. This is a guy who's on the school board. He should be ashamed of himself. He should apologize. He should issue an apology. There is no call or no justification whatsoever for what he did. I did see that he took it down, but it's still totally wrong. And it was completely wrong. When I saw it, I actually said, this is one of the most stupid posts I've ever seen. And that was my response when I saw it.
Well, welcome to East Chicago and Jesse Gomez. Hey, real quick, I'll tell you this. If you need to see a good movie, if you're an Elvis fan, the movie about Elvis, it's called Epic, meaning Elvis Presley in concert. If you get a chance to see it in the theater, it is so well worth it. It is a ton of footage, all live footage from when Elvis was in Vegas doing, what do they call them now when the guys have a residency? Yeah. He did one way back when. It's probably one of the first ones ever, actually. But it is simply amazing if you love Elvis. And you watch how hard this guy worked and how well he had like a 30-piece band behind him with backup singers and people doing, medley and harmony. And then he had a couple drummers and all sorts of different instruments in that. And these shows that they put on in this movie were absolutely fantastic. I liked it so much. I'm going to try to see it this weekend if they put it on one of the IMAX screens. Absolutely fantastic.
It sounds like it'd be a great movie, especially if you like Elvis, but I've never been an Elvis fan. So I think I'll pass on that one, Mad Mac. I take your word on it. You're a great movie critic. I'm sure it has some redeeming entertainment value, but I think I'll pass on that suggestion. Hey, thanks so much for calling. And don't forget the Taste of the Region coming up March 6th.
Harder, though.
Sorry, go ahead. What? I think we lost.
Yes.
All right, well, let's go to a quick break. You're listening to the Morning Call on WJOB 1230 and 104.7 FM. We'll be right back.
Life's biggest challenges don't come with a warning. When legal issues arise, whether it's a car accident, personal injury, criminal charge, or representing you before municipal boards, you need a trusted advocate on your side. At Westland & Bennett, we listen first because your story matters. We provide strategic, personalized legal solutions to protect your rights, your freedom, and your future. Peace of mind starts with a conversation. Call 219-440-7550 today for a free consultation.
Ennigenberg Roofing offers roof replacements, repairs, and new construction. Certainteed Shingle Master certified, our goal is to treat every customer and project with respect, courtesy, and honesty. Serving Northwest Indiana for over 63 years, contact us for a free roof replacement estimate at 219-365-8879. Mention this ad and receive a free upgrade to Certainteed Pro Shingles. Ennigenberg Roofing, 219-365-8879.
Do you like to work with your hands, creating something from nothing? Then think about Laborers Local 41. You'll get 432 hours of apprenticeship training, all while earning a wage with benefits and incurring no student debt. You'll travel to different job sites, learn tons of skills, and in a lot of cases, be the first one on and the last one off a job site. It all starts at laborers41.com.
Are you sausage curious?
Who's ready for Polish?
Big Frank Sausage has the very best Polish food in the region.
You had a mouthful of Big Frank sausage?
We have a full bar, dine-in, carry-out, delivery, and catering available.
I've had a mouthful of Big Frank sausage.
I've got a mouthful of Big Frank sausage.
219-378-9556. Smacznego i na zdrowie.
Who's ready for Polish?
All right, we're back in Big Frank Sausage and his commercial, and I have to chuckle at that one every time. 845-1100 is the number to call. Do we have some callers?
We got one.
All right, let's take that caller. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Tom. How you doing?
Good morning. Fine. How are you?
All right. Hey, I sent you a message today. Chicago's 189 years old. Was that after the cow kicked the lantern over in the Chicago fire, or was that
before the Great Chicago Fire?
No, that's before the Great Chicago Fire. That takes us back to the 1830s and Fort Dearborn, and you can still, when you go to downtown Chicago, you go to Michigan Avenue and Wacker Drive, you can see the markers. They're embedded in the concrete sidewalks that say the original site of Fort Dearborn. So that is the 189th anniversary of the city of Chicago.
So 189 years ago, Chicago's 189 years ago. Were they still horse-drawn buggies, or did they have automobiles?
Automobiles only really came about at the turn of the last century, so it would be all horses, probably not even buggies, because you wouldn't be able to ride through the wilderness. It was largely an outpost, so it was largely wilderness and swamp.
Then now another thing, because I'm starting to read this morning, study some stuff. But so like East Chicago, Whiting, Gary, and then I guess Michigan City, the cities that wrap around Lake Michigan over here in Indiana. Which is the oldest city over here wrapping Lake Michigan in Indiana? I wonder which is the oldest city.
I would take a guess. I would venture to guess it's probably Michigan City. The city of Whiting basically was incorporated in 1889. I think East Chicago follows thereafter. So Gary follows after. Hammond is about the same time. Hammond's a little bit older than Whiting. But Whiting basically became a city or became a town first because of Standard Oil. Although there was an area called Roby. Some people still know where it is. Roby existed well before any of those cities, but I think Michigan City would probably be the oldest.
Yeah, I just want to say that, I don't want to talk, that all the war and stuff starting and all the problems, but about a week or two ago, I had a student to get tested. He came from another country quite a while, way back ago, but this student came through the country the proper way. He came across, got his papers, did everything by the book, and then they did that thing, I guess, where they finally sign it and you put your hand up and swear you're a citizen and everything. And what he said to me on the way going out there that morning and coming back, he says, he says, when Trump came in office the first term, he says about less than a year after that, he says, me and my wife, we're starting to have a good income and have a good living. Before that, everything started, it was costing us money and everything. Then he said, this is what he said to me. Honestly, he said to me, he says, I love this country. He says, but then after Trump left, he says, it started costing us more money. We had more problems. But he says, now that Trump's back in, he says, we're starting to, he says, my retirement and everything, he says, I'm living better now. But he says, in between Trump and before Trump's first term, he says, my living cost and my way to live was terrible, And I said, are you sure? He says, yeah. He says, I love this country, but he says, man, he says, them Democrats, they just upset our living, our cost of living, and our way of living, And I said, are you sure? And he goes, yeah. He says, I love this country, but he says, the Democrats just destroyed my being comfortable of living over here and enjoying my life and make a living. That's about all I got to say on
there
that.
There are people that of course feel otherwise. There are people that feel that Donald Trump is a disaster. There are people that feel that Joe Biden was a disaster. That's part of the American political system, but we take those views to extremes now. What I don't understand is how people can be marching in the street and protesting, basically saying the Ayatollah was a good person. That's beyond me. So, hey, Mike, thanks so much for the call.
Yep.
Got to move forward. Yep. Thanks so much. 845-1100 is the number to call. He mentioned government and politics, and I mentioned this earlier this morning when we were working on the phone lines. I actually saw the interview last night with Bill Clinton before the Congressional Committee. And I've got to tell a Bill Clinton story. So I actually met him in 2008. He was campaigning in Northwest Indiana. Lynette, I don't know if you realize that there was a huge campaign between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama in the primary. And Indiana, usually by the time you get around to the Indiana primary, it doesn't really make any difference. But in 2008, Indiana was a hotbed of politics, and I was involved uh, with bringing Bill Clinton to Northwest Indiana. He spoke at Whiting's middle school gymnasium. And I'm watching Bill Clinton last night, and they're asking him, of course, about Jeffrey Epstein and his involvement with the Epsteins. And he's sitting there and he's kind of smirking, he's kind of denying things. They're showing him pictures of him in a hot tub with some young girl. And I'm reminded by the fact that when I met Bill Clinton, he and I were standing behind stage before he was to go out and give remarks on behalf of his wife, who was a candidate for president. And Clinton says to me, "Hey, man, all I can say is she is one hot person, one hot woman." And he was pointing to a reporter, and I forget who the reporter was, but she was a reporter from the Chicago News Media. And I said, "Yes, she's very attractive." And he says, "Do you have her number?" And I'm not making this up. It happened in May uh, of 2008. And Bill Clinton looked at me and said, "Man, she is one hot woman." And then asked me if I had her number. So there you go. 845-1100 is the number to call. We have callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Okay, yeah, I just want to make a couple of points. You know, you mentioned about the Bears not contacting the mayor's office here before they announce her and their desire to look at Hammond. To me, that's suspicious. That sounds like a ploy. I know that's what you're thinking, and the fact that they never contacted the mayor's office, and yet they expressed a desire maybe to move to Hammond, it doesn't sound genuine. It just doesn't.
He initially learned about it. He learned about it from the news media initially.
Right. You would think if they're going to move a multi-billion-dollar corporation like that with across the state line, right, and drop it right in the lap of Mayor McDermott, they would have contacted his office. Or at least if they had the intent even of looking at that, they would have contacted his office.
So you would think that they would have been in negotiation with him before they would have been announcing it. But basically, as I recall, he learned about it the morning that the story broke, and they were scrambling. They were scrambling to respond to the story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of ambivalent on it. If they come here to Hammond, I always thought that the Hard Rock site would have been a better location, right off 8094. But since I can sort of understand the logic of wanting to be right across the state line, but you might as well be almost in the 10th ward. I mean, you could hit it with a rock from here. And actually, I think if Brandon Johnson was to lose the Bears, you'd rather lose him to a place like Hammond where you can get some development on the southeast side possibly than lose him to Arlington Heights.
You know, I don't know if Brandon Johnson would think that far. I don't know that Brandon Johnson's capable of even thinking that that far into a subject. I don't think Brandon Johnson's a very capable person. You're right. I think it would have some residual effect on the east side, but I don't know that he's capable of figuring that one out.
Well, the other side of the coin on that, I don't even know if he knows the 10th ward is part of the city of Chicago. But the other point I wanted to make,
if he does, he probably ignores it.
Well, yeah, I don't even seriously. I wonder sometimes if he even realizes the southeast side is part of Chicago. I've talked to people over the years from Chicago. I grew up on the southeast side. I grew up with people in Chicago that didn't even know where the southeast side was, so it wouldn't surprise me. But the other point I wanted to make was on this war in Iran. I cannot buy that this whole thing is because Trump was worried that the Iranians were on a cusp of maybe getting an ICBM and maybe launching it against the United States. This is what the backdrop of, I think when Bill Clinton was president, There was a guy named Charlie Tree working at Los Alamos, I think it was, and during his administration, he allowed Charlie Tree to get the secrets on their multiple independent reentry vehicles that could put 8 warheads on one ICBM, and under Clinton, he allowed that to go to China. Also, somewhere along the line, the United States allowed Pakistan to get their hands on nukes. Now, they don't have ICBMs, but they could wreak just as much havoc in that region as Iran could, actually more so. But and then you look at North Korea.
Can I interrupt you? Can I ask you where did you get the information about the merging of the missiles? Because I just read that. I'm reading the book The Brink, and I just read that chapter. So that's very interesting that you bring that up.
Yeah, well, that's old news. I remember when that broke back during the Clinton administration. It was on 60 Minutes, I think. But again, and also look at North Korea. North Korea is actually openly working toward an ICBM. They've worked on rockets that could stage, that could go into space and hit intercontinental. They're working on nuke submarines. Submarines that could deliver a nuke. And why are we not invading North Korea? This whole thing just smacks. There's one beneficiary of this whole thing, and that's Israel. Bill Clinton has already demonstrated he's right. He's Netanyahu's play toy, and Bill Clinton. I'm sorry, Donald Trump, and it just I was the biggest Trump supporter there is, but more and more and more, he's just giving people every reason just to walk away from his whole phony MAGA movement. The people that were part of MAGA did not vote for Donald Trump so that he could actually go to war on the benefit of Israel. Israel is, I remember with General Wesley Clark, after 9/11, talked about the plan to take out 6 countries for the benefit of Israel, and Iran being the top of the list. That's happened over the last 20 years. Those countries, almost all of them, have been open to Israeli expansion. Israeli settlements are going on right now in Syria, in the West Bank, and in Gaza. It's a greater Israel project, and Trump is right on board with it. I cannot believe this whole thing is we're going to war with Iran because of the threat of nuclear strikes from Iran. I remember Netanyahu back in 1972 or whatever it was talking about Iran getting their hands on, or maybe it had to be later than that because Mullahs came in 79, but he's been talking about this for 30 years, ever since the 90s. Netanyahu was saying that Iran's on the cusp of getting a nuke. When meantime, it's pretty much common knowledge Israel's got at least 200 of them. They were working on development of nukes at Dimona back there in the Kennedy administration. So come on, it just doesn't look right. I'm sorry, I'm not buying this thing that the Iran is a big boogeyman. So we've got to bleed our kids on that battlefield.
I think Iran's a big boogeyman. But I think that what we did, Midnight Hammer, where we blew up their nuclear sites, I think that was justifiable. But I just, there's a lot to this. Look, you have a valid point. I think a lot of this is being driven by the state of Israel, and Israel's our ally. But at the same time, do we go to war because of their bidding? And there are some legitimate questions and legitimate issues that you're raising about how this all came about. It seems to me that the way I believe it happened, and again, I have no proof of this, it's just an opinion and it's just conjecture, but I think Israel approached the United States and said that they knew where the Ayatollah and his henchmen were going to be meeting, and they wanted to go to battle, and Donald Trump said, okay, let's do it, and that's how we found ourselves where we're at right now. I really do.
If you look at Israel, there's a whole segment of the Israeli leadership that practitioners at a Talmud that are really, really hardcore Israel first. It almost smacks of the same kind of supremacy that a lot of Islamics have, where it's everything for the Israeli people, nothing for anybody else. This whole thing in Gaza, when you carpet bomb women and kids in Gaza for months on end, and I still don't believe this whole thing with October 7th, it wasn't a stand down. Israel's got one of the best intel organizations, best militaries in the world. they had I think a air base 15-minute flight away from where the attack came on October 7th. You can't get across.
I'll disagree with you. I'll disagree with you on October 7th. I think October 7th was a very heinous attack on Israeli citizens. What happened was awful. I've read some of the accounts. They were decapitating people with shovels. It was pretty horrible. But that was an attack on Israel. Once again, we get pulled into so many wars and so many things because of Israel that I just think that you probably are right on this one, that our involvement with Israel basically led us to attack Iran rather than we attacked Iran because of some imminent threat. I agree with you. I think Israel does figure into this issue, and again, they've been a good staunch ally, but then too they probably wouldn't exist without us. So it's a difficult situation. Again, I will support the American troops. I'll support anybody that's over there, but I'm very leery of what's going on. Hey, thanks so much for the call.
As far as okay, Tom.
Yes.
All right. Well,
real fast. I guess we lost him. 845-1100 is the number to call. Do we have another caller, Lynette?
We can take one more.
Okay, we'll take one more and then we'll go to a break. So, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Tom. I know there's a lot of people out there today that are, questioning the invasion of Iran and, all the controversies surrounding. But can we all just come together and thank the Lord that Jasmine Crockett will no longer be a congresswoman?
It is some good news. The bad news is that I think Jasmine Crockett has 9 lives, and Jasmine Crockett's going to show up on MS Now or CNN or one of those channels, and she's going to be a news commentator. Somebody said she might end up on The View. That's a possibility as well. And I would love to say that this is the end of Jasmine Crockett, but I don't believe it.
Well, I at least you won't have the levers of power to work, and joining the irreverent media is okay. I think that's a nice little participation ribbon for her.
It isn't. Here's the problem with it. It is and it isn't, because I think most people, even people on the near left, people that are moderates in the center, I think it just adds to the distrust of the news media to have somebody as bombastic as Jasmine Crockett ending up in the news media, and her all of a sudden commenting on things, her basically presenting information. What she's going to do is she's going to be viewed as a know-it-all, that she was a member of Congress, which means nothing. It doesn't mean that she's qualified to comment on anything any more than she is now. I mean, she's a kind of an embarrassment, but they're going to prop her up. Trust me. This is not the last we've heard of Jasmine Crockett.
Kind of an embarrassment. I think she is a certified embarrassment. But I want to touch on your previous caller, and I thought he had pretty cogent arguments. Hearing his arguments, and in a Dabert's kind of voice I found it kind of entertaining. But hey, we all have our own idiosyncrasies, right? But I did have one thing I wanted to say. Like he feels like we're just invading Iran because of Israel. I mean, they are the number one state sponsor of Islamic terrorism around the world, and that has affected us. That has affected Europe. That has affected the entire Western world. And I just want to point out that 1979 a coup against the Iranian people was really one of the very first countries to be invaded and taken over by an Islamic group of people. You had Iran, and then you also had Lebanon. That was a mostly Christian country before the movements going in. and it's happening now in France and UK and Germany. I mean, this is the end of Islamic supremacy around the world, around the Western world. And I think Donald Trump thinks of this as a much deeper, strategy than just, hey, I'm going to bomb Iran for my buddies in Israel.
So I hope that's the case. But the way it's being projected and the way it's being explained, you have to question. I mean, what were the exact motives of why we had to do this right now? I felt that, the idea of sending planes and ships and positioning military assets in the Middle East to create some, to certainly ratchet up the pressure on Iran made a lot of sense. But, again, look, history's 2020. We'll find out out years from now what really happened. I just don't feel totally comfortable with what's going on right now, but I'll support the troops 100%.
I feel, it's 100%, and I feel bad for the troopers that have lost their lives. But I think what's really telling is how Trump has turned his back on Carney and Starmer. And I keep going back to this point that the British overseas banking industry has profited at our expense by letting in fentanyl into this country, by allowing Venezuelan oil, by allowing Iranian oil to be shipped to China. I really think this is also an attack on the British elites who have actually been our adversary without us knowing about it. And I think that's why we have Trump saying the other day that, our special relationship is in shambles, if you will. And I believe this to be very true. I think they have been undermining. Look at who was behind the intelligence that tried to take down Trump in his first term. It was a British agent. This is all pointing back to British intelligence and the British establishment wanting to maintain their banking empire around the world. And I'm glad to see that it's being dismantled right before our eyes.
I think you bring up 2 points, and we have to go to a break, but I think you bring up two very valid points, which is the influence of Iranian influence in Great Britain and also in France. And I'm not talking about formal influence. I'm talking about all the people that have moved there and have advocated for some change in British and French governments. And if you go there, you see that those are countries that are changing. They're being dominated by a lot of outsiders, and I think that it's watered down the support that we've enjoyed for years from the British and the French when it comes to U.S. foreign policy. So I think you have some very valid points. We've got to take a break, though. So thanks for the call. 845-1100 is the number to call. Call during the break. We'll take your calls as soon as we come back. It's the morning call on WJOB 1230M, 104.7 FM. And when we come back, we're going to do traffic and weather.
It's the simplest expression. The smallest thing that changes everything. A smile. So easy. A smile lights it up. Apologizes. And welcomes unconditionally. Because the shortest distance between two people is a smile.
Thank you.
Strag & Van Til, where making life easier starts with a smile.
IBEW Local 697 electrical contractors bring the highest standard of electrical work to Lake County homes, schools, and businesses. From everyday fixes to once-in-a-lifetime builds, we don't just get the job done, we get it done right and up to the highest safety standards. When you need electrical work, hire the professionals who power Indiana. Powering Indiana, Lake County, bringing excellence to the job, creating a brighter future for our community.
It's the simplest expression. The smallest thing that changes everything. A smile. So easy. A smile lights it up. Apologizes. And welcomes unconditionally. Because the shortest distance between two people is a smile.
Thank you.
Strack and Van Til, where making life easier starts with a smile.
Ogren Insurance, Hammond's oldest family-owned independent insurance agency, now in its third generation providing clients in the Chicago area with products from quality insurance companies to handle your every need. Regardless of driving history, Ogren Insurance can find the right coverage for you at competitive prices. To learn more about the insurance solutions and services we offer throughout Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan, call 219-933-0076 or visit our website, ogreninsurance.com. We're located at 6929 Homan Avenue in Hammond, Indiana. Do business locally with someone you know and trust.
All right, we're back, and let's take a look at traffic. Northwest Indiana is not a problem this morning. 8094, I-65, the toll road, Klein Avenue, all look good. But when you go across the line into Illinois, 294 looks fine, but we're starting to see some real backup on Bishop Ford and on the Dan Ryan, and also on South Lakeshore Drive. So let me just give you a suggestion. If you're coming from Northwest Indiana and you need to get to downtown, take the Chicago Skyway. Yes, you'll lose $8 and some cents, but then get off at Stony Island Avenue and jump on Lakeshore Drive from Stony. You'll have a pretty decent ride to downtown right now. Looking at, again, the Bishop Ford, it's backed up to 106, and then it opens up again just before the Skyway and then backs up from the Skyway going north all the way to downtown. So that's problematic this morning. Again, 294 looks good. The Stevenson, the Eisenhower, and the Kennedy are all backed up. And there we have traffic. Let's go to weather with Lynette.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 36 degrees. Sorry, hold on. Camera's not on me. All right, good morning, everyone. Today we're at 36 degrees with highs of 49 degrees.
It's still not on you.
Is it not?
No, I'm seeing the back of your head.
It is. Oh, you're seeing it. Today we're at 36 degrees with highs of 49 and lows of 41. It's going to be mostly cloudy today, later tonight with areas of fog and periods of rain and a thunderstorm. And then tomorrow on Thursday, we'll be having highs of 47 and lows of 40. So it'll be cloudy with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm early in the afternoon. And then Friday, we'll be having highs of 73 and lows of 53. It's going to be cloudy and warmer with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm, and then breezy in the afternoon.
So have you ever heard the old adage about March, that it comes in like a lion, goes out like a lamb? Have you ever heard that?
I don't think so.
And that's again, it's an old adage, and I guess I'm just getting old. But it sounds like that's going to be pretty true. So some heavy weather the next couple of days, and then it's going to calm down, and looks like some pretty nice weather actually in the region sometime early next week. Of course, it'll be just in time for Monday, but nonetheless, it should be nice. So we're going to get some rain and some thunder and some lightning, and then it'll be pretty decent for a couple of days. And look at the long range forecast, won't be very long, couple more weeks. I'll be back in the region, and just looking at the forecast, and I'll come up just in time for it to drop back down to the upper 30s. So there you go. 845-1100 is the number. Again at 7:30. We have John Dabertin joining us, but let's go back to the phone calls. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, I just had to call back real quick. The caller before Mont, God bless him, great caller, but if he thinks the Jews let the jihadis walk into Israel just to set up some kind of chance an opportunity to go take out the jihadists, that's the most insane thing I've ever heard. You've got there's only two things they do in Iran. They pump oil and export it, and they make weapons to kill anybody that gets in their way. These Muslim jihadis are absolutely globally out of control. There was something published by the AP about 20 years ago, back when I was on the bond floor, talking about global terrorism. And out of the last 10,000 events globally at the time, terrorist attacks on the on planet Earth, it was 9,967 of them were done in the name of Muslim jihadis. Now, Trump saw an opportunity here to end this once and for all. And this
we
is
hope
it.
so. Wait a minute,
All
we
that
hope so.
crap
Because
that
here's
these
the problem:
crazy
what you
liberals
don't
said.
know is
Hold on, hold on.
you
All
don't
the
know about
stuff that
somebody
these
that
guys
they've
talked
influenced
about, a
who's in
new
their
global
20s who
order.
rises up and does the same kind of jihadist movement in the future. So we don't know that he's eradicating all jihadists. We know that he's eradicating the current jihadists.
Okay, you can't track all the little 5-year-olds down who are being infiltrated in their brain and brainwashed, but you got the guys doing the job now. You got the guys with the money. You got the guys with the missiles. And between Israel and the United States, they're wiping every single one of them out. Every country in the Middle East is against Iran. The Saudis, the Kuwaitis, everybody wants them out. Why? Because they do everything to inhibit normal life. They contribute
Totally
nothing
agree. I
to
will
planet Earth.
totally agree with you. You're right. When it comes to Iran, they're isolated. They're not popular within the Arab culture, the Arab community. They're not liked by anybody. So I agree with you on that one. You make some good points, Mad Mac. Again, I don't know how much influence there was from Israel, but I do have a tendency to believe that caller was right, that there was some pretty significant influence from the state of Israel as it relates to why we struck when we struck. I think they had a lot to do with it. I really do.
Trump made it crystal clear way back when. You're either going to deal with them or you're going to wipe them out. And when you've got a guy, big ears Obama, sending $1.8 billion in cash, untraceable cash to these guys, you got to ask yourself, why would I ever want to be involved with a Democrat for the rest of my life? When guys like Frank Van would stand up and go, well, Brock did, he thought he was doing a good thing. You got to be out of your mind. We have a president. This is probably the most monumental decision made by a president in the history of our country, other than George Washington saying, I will not be a king. Nothing could.
Again, I think
this will bring freedom to the planet. We will eliminate this crazy Muslim jihadist thought that they get to wipe everybody out. Hopefully this is over.
Look, I hope this is the end of it. I hope that people in the future on all sides look at things and say that first and foremost, if you have any religious belief at all, that there's some sanctity of life and we all need to get along, whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, doesn't matter, Hindu, we all have to respect each other. And I hope that's where we end up. I'm just not sure.
No, we don't.
We're quite there as a world.
No, we don't. When you wipe out 40,000 people in 15 days because they protested, because they didn't want to wear a sheet over their head, that's not even humane. That you're not even connected to anything. You're a cult. You're a crazy cult of numbskulls, and the whole world wants nothing to do with you. Look at France and look at England right now. They look like
I
the
think
JV team from the Middle
that's
East.
very legitimate. Look at what's going on in France and look at what's going on in England right now. I think you're right about that. Those are causes for concern for the future. I just hope and pray that the people who basically come to power in Iran are much better than what we've had for the last 40 or 50 years. I hope that's the case. I don't know that we have a plan as to how we're going to get there. That concerns me. Okay. I also don't want to see, and Mad Mac, I don't think you want to see either, to see the U.S. embroiled in a conflict that lasts years and years in Iran. I don't think that Trump wants to. I agree there. I don't think he wants to. The question is, how long do we end up embroiled in Iran is the question right now.
Well, here's the last thing I'd say. If given the chance, I will go to Iran and I will carry the flag. I will be the campaign manager for Verley as president of Iran. with Vice President Matlock. I'm all in on that one.
Well, I don't know about Ron, but if I can get you and Verley on a plane and send you to Iran, I'll give that some thought. All right. Hey, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Lynette, why don't we take a break because John Doherty is going to be coming in just a moment. So let's take a quick break. You're listening to the morning call on WJLB 1230 AM 104.7 FM, excuse me. And we're going to be back. And then when we return, John Doherty is going to be with us. So keep it tuned right here.
When your home needs help, the last thing you need is a faceless corporation or sales-driven franchise. At Myers Companies, we've been proudly local since 1951, born and raised right here in Northwest Indiana. We're family-owned and operated, built on trust, hard work, and integrity. And because we're family, we treat you like family. Your comfort and safety always come first. For HVAC, plumbing, and electrical done right, choose Myers Companies. Local, family-owned, here for your family.
For a fast and friendly car wash, go to Easy Clean Car Wash. Open 7 days a week in 4 convenient locations: Highland, Griffith, Cherville, and Lansing. Free vacuuming, air freshener, and a towel with every wash. It's fast, safe, and gentle. For more information and hours of all our locations, visit myeasyclean.com. Also, see how you can wash your car daily with our $10 Ultimate Wash for only $19.99 per month. Give your car the best clean at Easy Clean Car Wash.
From the gas in your car to the heat in your home and the roads that you drive on, our work powers daily life. We are USW Local 71, the proud men and women of the Whiting Refinery. We're not just refinery workers. We're your friends and neighbors, raising our families here, shopping in the same stores, and cheering in the same stands. USW Local 71, powering the region because we are the region.
It's gold rush time at Albert's. Oh, looky here! Oh, those are gonna fetch a pretty penny.
But who's gonna buy them from us?
I'll buy that gold from you.
What did you say?
I said I'll buy that gold from you, and I'll give you top dollar.
That sounds great.
It's gold rush time. We will see you at Albert's.
And I see John Doherty is in the house. I see his coat. So I'm assuming he's ready and willing. Good morning, John. Are you there? Oh, and he's there. I see him, but I can't hear him. Morning, John.
How's this?
Go ahead.
Is that better?
It sounds great. It sounds great. It looked great.
Thank you. So do you.
Your coat looks great. Saw your coat there. So.
So how are you, Tom? Probably better than I am.
Great. And how about you?
Well,
is the big question. Lots to talk about this morning, and of course, John, you've joined us every first Wednesday of the month, and we talk about athletic issues and medical related issues. And you had a story this week in the Times, basically making the argument once again about the need for professional trainers at the high school and college level.
And not only having an athletic trainer in your athletic department, but having enough athletic trainers that they can travel with your team, especially when it's a long-distance trip, because they really had a tragedy at Connors State College down in Oklahoma in November where they didn't have an athletic trainer on staff. They went to a game in Texas. Young man gets elbowed in the head, really doesn't get adequate attention, and it's not John Doherty's opinion. You can just see on the video. He's the poor kid is essentially ignored. He's been elbowed in the head. He's at the end of the bench with a towel over his head. The game ends. Nobody goes to check on him at the end of the game until teammates come back out of the locker room. One teammate comes back out of the locker room, gets him up off the bench, and escorts him to the locker room. And 3 hours later, he's back on campus in Oklahoma, and they're calling EMS because now he's unresponsive. And 3 days later, he's dead from a brain bleed thanks to that elbow in the head. And it all could have been avoided if he had received professional care at the game, which he just didn't get. And when you're competing at that level with guys as big as he is, and that means guys that were that big in high school, they can hit each other hard enough that they can cause a fatal injury. And you need the judgment of a medical professional, an athletic trainer, to check out somebody like that and make the decision, this kid can't go on the bus ride back home. He needs to go to the nearest hospital.
Let's bring this close to home. Let's begin with high schools. In Indiana, what are the requirements, if any, as it relates to athletic trainers?
There aren't any requirements in terms of a school having to have an athletic trainer in Indiana.
And that's pretty scary because you've got thousands upon thousands of athletes playing. And even when they have athletic trainers, there's no requirement, again, to have them. So there's no requirement to have them travel with the team, correct?
Right. And I think you have a situation where too often the thought is, well, your athletic trainer always travels with football, so that tells you something about football, I guess. But they don't travel with rarely, I shouldn't say never, but rarely do they travel with the other collision sports, soccer, basketball, wrestling. And the care is then left to the host athletic trainer, who the athletes don't know. The visiting coach may or may not know them to varying degrees. When John Doherty was the athletic trainer in his 20th year at Munster, all the coaches from other teams knew me, but they didn't know me when I was new to the area. And not knowing you, they don't, and for good reason, they don't trust you. So they don't seek your care and counsel, and then it ends up being to the detriment of an athlete on a traveling team.
Here's the argument that I've heard over the years. When my son played sports, for example, well, the other team's athletic trainer will be there in the event that there's an injury or a problem.
They're there if somebody drops dead, sure, but they're not there for more of an evolving situation where maybe it doesn't seem so severe at first, or it may seem relatively minor and evolves into something far more serious hours or days later. Part of being an athletic trainer for a team is not only do you know the medical history of the athletes, you know them personally and their personalities, because a sudden change in personality is also a warning sign of something serious going on. And a host athletic trainer isn't going to pick that up from a kid of a visiting team.
And then, of course, let's take it out the college level. Again, no requirement, at least in Indiana, and I would assume probably anything short of Division I, there's probably not a requirement either.
There are sports medicine requirements that have been put out by the NCAA, or guidelines. There's the NCAA Sports Medicine Handbook, but it's up to the individual schools to follow those guidelines. And some of those guidelines have even got to the point of being rules on how some things should be handled, but the NCAA doesn't enforce those rules. You don't see them enforcing their competition rules in terms of cheating with recruiting, et cetera, right now. So the NCAA right now is a toothless lion, and expecting them to enforce any kind of medical regulations is it's just not a realistic expectation at this point.
I'm not sure that they're a toothless lion. I think they're basically kind of a money grabbing organization that has gone after every dollar they can find. And at the same time, when it comes to the health and welfare of many of their athletes, I think that is a low priority for the NCAA.
I was going to say it's a secondary priority. Absolutely.
We're coming up on we're getting near March Madness. We've got some playoffs this weekend. Don't know if you followed Valparaiso. Actually, is in a better position than they have been for some time.
They're better than they were the last few years.
Missouri Valley playoffs.
Right.
How they basically would have been in a number 4 position had they bothered to play a little bit harder and come up with 2 points on Saturday. They lost their last game to Evansville. It made a big difference. It drops them to a number 6 seed. So we've got Valparaiso, which is close by. Any predictions on the big dance? Lots of teams. I will say it shows the prowess of the Big Ten when you look at the top teams. I think the Big Ten is going to be extremely well represented in basketball this year.
But I don't see anybody in the Big Ten beating Michigan. Of course, you've got to go out and play the games, obviously. Who knows what will happen in an individual game. But just looking around the country, you look at Michigan, Duke, UConn, Arizona. Those will be difficult teams to beat. And I went to the Notre Dame-Duke game, and the beatdown they put on Notre Dame was unbelievable. They are a complete team. The Boozer kid looks like an NBA veteran. He physically he looks like he's 25 years old. His twin brother looks like he's 18. But the better player looks like he's 25 and he plays like he's 30. They're terrific. But Michigan is very formidable. So I think those 4 teams. And I guess you got to throw in Nebraska too. But those 4 teams in my mind: Michigan, Duke, Arizona, UConn. Boy, they'll be tough to beat.
I agree with you. I think though that what's going on is kind of interesting. That you've got you have of course the Big Ten added how many teams over the last few years now? They're up to 18 teams. And I think that the Big Ten is going to become a very dominant league in all sports, especially in basketball, but I think even in football. I think they're going to be far more dominant than they've ever been.
They are in a great position, and it is because of finances as much as anything else. We had the sportsmanship dinner a week ago, or a little over a week ago now, and Pat Garrity was our speaker, and we were chatting before the program got underway and talking about recent NCAA tournament runs, and I mentioned to him that I had followed Loyola closely when they made their run a few years ago, and actually I was at the regional final in Atlanta the year they got to the Final Four, and he commented to me, "You'll never see a Loyola run like that again, because a school like Loyola in the current environment will never be able to afford to put together a team talented enough to win against these Big Ten, SEC, Big East teams that have the deep pockets and are paying for the superior talent."
I agree with you, but I also wonder. We've been talking so much about the Bears and this ploy, I think, which is the best way to describe it, of coming to Northwest Indiana. You've got to give some credit to Kevin Warren, because Kevin Warren was really in the position that helped create the current prowess of the Big Ten.
Oh,
And of course, he's head of the Bears now, so
right.
You got to give him some credit for what's transpired.
He clearly he knows how to navigate the halls of power, and certainly he is responsible for much of the success of the Big Ten, responsible for the financial success of the Minnesota Vikings, and he's attempting to do the same with the Bears, but it remains to be seen if he will be as successful with the Bears as he has been in his previous two stops.
Again, it'll be an interesting tournament this year. A couple weeks away from it, but I think it'll be very, very interesting. And again, it's kind of nice to say that there's at least some chance that Valparaiso could actually end up representing the Missouri Valley, although I think Belmont is probably too dominant and probably will be the team that represents the Missouri Valley. But
I think
we'll wait and see.
I think you'll see Cinderella stories in those mid-major conference tournaments, but and it'll be very exciting at conference tournament time. But I'm really fearful in the NCAA. The days of the Cinderella making a deep run are over.
It's true, although I think things have certainly gotten a lot more dominant when it comes to major conferences, thanks to NILs, for example. But what was the name of the Cinderella team out of New Jersey a few years ago that did so well in the tournament? Small little school,
right.
Wasn't much bigger than Calumet College, frankly. I mean, it was a small little school.
Was it St. Peter? And was it St. Peter's?
Was dominant. Something like that.
Yeah.
But again, I see your point. I mean, things have changed. College sports has become a multi-billion-dollar corporation. If you can, I mean, if you can wrap your hands around the idea that altogether it is a huge entertainment part of the American culture, and I think it's becoming more and more dominated by the biggest teams, and
the rich are getting richer.
Out the Cinderella teams.
Yeah, the rich are getting richer. The typical better Big Ten, better SEC, Notre Dame team level roster payrolls. Last year was the payroll for IU, Michigan, Notre Dame, Penn State, Alabama. Their payrolls were $40 million. And it pales in comparison to the $300 million in the NFL, but it's infinitely greater than it was 5 years ago at the college level. A $40 million payroll for a major college football team.
And again, it's only going to grow. My concern is, how does it affect long term? Does it affect the overall fun of watching a college game? It's always been the standard that you could watch a college game, especially basketball, and on any given day, any team could win. It's not as predictable as the NBA or even the NFL. And the same was true with football. I mean, after all, you look at Notre Dame and you look at the upset of Marshall,
and then
the upset by Northern Illinois a few years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it was possible. I don't think that those kinds of upsets are going to be possible in the future. I really don't.
Far less possible, yeah, because of the payroll disparity. This is ramped up in a relatively short time.
It's been a big change. And then, of course, the portal, the idea that, you don't have a student going to one college or one university for 4 years anymore. They're basically being traded and moved around. I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but it's just like people moving in the NFL or in Major League Baseball or the NBA.
Total free agency.
Let me ask you this: there's a story that really hasn't gotten a lot of play. It's been covered a little bit, but what do you think's going on with the WNBA?
I think that they did get to a level of income where there is some revenue sharing this year, and the
did not receive
the players are getting some just now, the season's been over for quite some time. They're getting closer to the start of the next season than they are to the end of the last. But they're in the middle of collective bargaining agreement negotiations, and right in the middle of these negotiations, it's come out that they reached the threshold for revenue sharing. So I think that's probably an eye-opener on both sides, that there is adequate revenue, that there was actual profit last year. It wasn't a great amount of profit, but the players are able to share in that. On the other hand, as I said, it wasn't a great amount of profit, so there isn't the money there that the players thought there might be for them to make a great leap forward in the terms of their CBA. But I think based on that information that came out, that there is revenue sharing money that's going to be distributed from last season, that they'll come to a middle ground fairly quickly, and they'd be awful foolish to have a lockout or a strike.
A
lockout or a strike
would. Those negotiations are also going to address the disparity in the qualifications of referees in the WNBA. I mean, you and I talked about this a lot last year. The number of injuries and the number of flagrant fouls and violations and the targeting, if you will,
right, that
occurred in last season. If that gets addressed as well.
I don't know if that would be subject to the CBA, but it's something that the league and the players somehow need to get a handle on. They will kill the golden goose if they kill the career of Caitlin Clark with another serious injury.
I agree with you. I think it's Caitlin Clark and a whole bunch of others right behind her. And if they don't address some of the needless injuries and needless fouls that go on, I think that they'll kill the opportunity to turn the WNBA into something that I'm sure a lot of investors would like to see. But I'm just shocked that some of the people that are owners of those teams aren't more vocal about ending some of the physicality, because it's just unnecessary. It doesn't add anything. It actually detracts from the game, and I think it turns off a lot of fans.
They seem to have a much better handle on it in the NBA than the WNBA, and that's the surprising thing to me, because really the NBA controls the WNBA. Those teams are essentially owned by NBA franchises in the various cities where they exist. You know, the Pacers own the WNBA franchise in Indianapolis, and or they were majority stakeholders anyways, and the NBA really dictates expansion of that league. So I don't understand why the NBA hasn't taken a better hold of the safety situation in the league and get this unnecessary rough play out of the game.
I agree with you. Now, I have to change sports for a minute. So I'm down in Florida. I know Sam Michael was down in Florida as well, although not near me, but he posted recently about taking in some spring training games. We went a week ago to Cacti Field for the Nationals versus St. Louis, and it was Bark in the Park, so I took the dogs. And I found it interesting. Why were they doing this on a Tuesday? They always do it on a Saturday. And then I found out why. So on Saturday, of course, who do they play but the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Paul Skeens pitches. And Skeens is somebody you and I have been a little bit hard on. We kind of felt that he'd by now probably be on the injury reserve list. And so far he is kind of delivering. He's kind of a phenomenon when you look at his ability.
Yeah, nearly unhittable. And the unfortunate thing for him is he has no supporting cast. But it is remarkable that his elbow and shoulder have held up at least to this point, because the speeds at which he throws are superhuman, and the human elbow wasn't made to throw over and over again at that speed. Now, he's a big guy, so that not only is he big, but he's tall. That gives him some advantage, at least in the short term. But I still wonder if the soft tissue in his elbow is going to hold up over the long haul.
Where I was going on it. So he's 6'6", and they say that his height and the length of his arms basically do make a difference in the speed.
Absolutely.
And his ability to consistently deliver those punishing pitches. I mean, he hasn't slowed down, which is pretty remarkable because, again, you and I think talked about him back when he was still in college and said the guy's going to blow his arm out.
And predictions that guys like you and I have made about similar pitchers at the college and pro level, those predictions have universally come true. All the best pitchers right now, and almost all the best pitchers in Major League Baseball, as fast as they throw, have had Tommy John surgery. So I hope Skeens can avoid it, because the unfortunate thing about Tommy John surgery is there's this mindset out there that if you, and it's very common among parents of high school pitchers, that if my son needs Tommy John surgery, he comes back because of the surgery. He actually comes back stronger than he was to begin with. Well, that works probably in about 60% of cases, and the other 40%, it doesn't work, and half of that 40% don't end up pitching again.
We've talked about this before, too, of course, being down in Florida for another couple of weeks, and then I'll be back in the studio. The next time you and I actually talk, I'll be sitting there right next to you. But you drive around Florida, and you see field after field after field being used by high school and middle school athletes when it comes to baseball. There are baseball fields that have lights that are, full at 10 o'clock at night. I don't know how the kids go to school the next morning, but they're out there playing. And that that certainly gives a leg up on everybody else in the nation when it comes to baseball in Florida. But you've got a lot of student athletes in Northwest Indiana, especially that their parents are listening or they're listening this morning. Some tips and some insight about making that transition. They're basketball season is ending. They're going on to start playing baseball and conditioning for baseball. Tell listeners about the transition, about the things that they need to do physically to transition from basketball to baseball.
Well, the most important thing is that I hope they played basketball, because in making the transition from one sport to the next, let's just keep baseball in mind. The best thing for a baseball player is to take 3 months away from the game at some point during the year. Playing baseball 12 months a year, you're going to wear out, especially somebody who's in a position where they throw a lot. Pitcher, obviously, but catcher, shortstop. Those players are going to wear out their arms if they play year round. Now, as they come, hopefully they've played basketball and now they're coming out of the basketball season. They need to ramp up gradually. You're not going to be at top speed and at maximum length in terms of innings 2 weeks into the baseball season. So they need to be patient. If your son has a live arm, he will have a live arm a year from now if you don't overuse it in the meantime. So be patient as you build up your endurance and your ability to go deeper and deeper into games, but that needs to be built up gradually. They need to, year-round, even if they aren't playing baseball, really need to work on their core. It's core strength that translates leg strength up into the arm, because throwing a baseball, whether it's from shortstop, center field, or from the mound, is a whole body activity. You just don't throw a baseball with your arm. You need to throw it with your entire body. So strength training year-round is important, and particularly making sure that your core is strong. It is the difference between keeping your son's arm healthy and not. The best example I can point to is Nolan Ryan near the end of his career. Here's a guy in his early to mid-40s still throwing the baseball in the low to mid-90s and getting guys out, and then he strains his oblique and tries to keep pitching. And what does he do the next time out with a sore oblique? That, at the end of his career, which is extremely unusual, because 40-year-old guys tend not to do this, but he tore his ulnar collateral ligament, and to have continued pitching, he would have needed Tommy John surgery, but he just retired.
And there you have it. John, thanks so much for coming in. Always great to talk to you.
Great
See
to
you
be
in
here.
person
I'm looking
next
forward to
time
it. Thought
you
you
and
were
I
going to
are
be
on
here
together.
today.
So great to visit with you. And again, folks, if you're listening, and especially if you have kids, just take some advice from John Doherty. Okay, make that transition. Don't overdo it. Don't try and go in there at 100 miles an hour. Put the brakes on, so to speak, and make that transition, and you'll be fine. Hey, John, thanks so much for coming in this morning. With that, we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to take your calls again. We'll do traffic and weather. You're listening to the morning call on WJOB 1230 AM and 104.7 FM. We'll be right back.
For over 140 years, the Central Midwest Carpenters have built our communities in Northwest Indiana. Are you ready to join the effort? We have long-term work, competitive pay, and the best benefits in the industry. We pride ourselves on innovative training and commitment to worksite safety. Earn as you learn as an apprentice. A solid career built on a solid legacy. For more info, go to carpenters.com.
Are you searching for a college where you belong? Calumet College of St. Joseph wants to know you and give you the support you need to succeed. Are you worried about how you'll pay for your degree? 95% of our students receive financial aid, including scholarships and grants. Need some extra help with your classes? You'll benefit from our small class sizes, free tutoring, internship planning, faculty mentors, and so much more. Come experience our accepting, supportive college family for yourself. Schedule your campus visit and apply at ccsj.edu.
Planting a tree, installing a fence, whether your project is big or small, NIPSCO reminds you to know what's below and contact 811 at least 2 full business days before doing any digging so that utility companies can mark the location of their underground lines. Contacting 811 is free and it's the law. Avoid possible penalties, costly repairs, or injuries. DIY or a pro, safety is in your hands. Every dig, every time.
If you're thinking of finishing your basement, installing outdoor security cameras, or your business has plans to break ground on a new project in 2024, Powering Indiana, Lake County is your source for the region's best electricians. With IBEW, Local 697 electricians, you're choosing the highest level of safety and reliability. Visit poweringindiana.org today and ensure your project is in the hands of skilled professionals.
All right, folks, and we're back, and we've got another half hour to take your calls, and then we'll move to the Whiting-Robertsville Chamber of Commerce show. And I do just want to do a quick shout out to Bob Carnahan, longtime friend of mine, Cedar Lake Town Councilman, and Bob just asked that I mentioned that they have the Perfect Love Food Pantry in Cedar Lake, and so I want to do a quick shout out to him and remind people that the facility is available. And really just a good guy doing good things. So if you're down in Cedar Lake, stop by the Perfect Love Food Pantry and stop by and say, hey, Tom Dabertin sent me, and Bob Carnahan volunteers there, so you'll get to meet Bob. 845-1100 is the number to call. Let's do traffic and weather real fast. Traffic. Of course, moving into the 8 o'clock hour, not a surprise. Things are pretty heavy across the line in Illinois. In Indiana, we're not looking too bad right now. We're still in pretty good shape. 8094 I-65, the toll road, and Klein Avenue all look good. You go across the line into Illinois, 294, not bad at all. However, the Ryan, the Kennedy, the Eisenhower, the Stevenson, the Bishop Ford, I-57, all showing pretty heavy signs of traffic this morning. So be careful, slow down, take your time, call your boss, tell him you'll be a few minutes late, and you can listen to us in the meantime. And some people say, well, yeah, but Tom, I lose you when I get north of about 55th in Chicago. You can always tune us in on the TuneIn app. So there's plenty of ways to listen to us. 845-1100 is the number. Why don't we do weather as well?
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 37 degrees with highs of 49 and lows of 41. It's going to be mostly cloudy today, and then later tonight we'll be having areas of fog with periods of rain and a thunderstorm. And then Thursday we'll be having highs of 47 and lows of 40. It's going to be cloudy with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm early in the afternoon. And then Friday we'll be having highs of 73 and lows of 53. So it'll be cloudy and warmer with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm, and then breezy in the afternoon.
And if we have thunderstorms, of course, it always bothers dogs. And Lynette, I can't remember. Do you have a dog?
I do.
You do. And so dogs, especially early on in the year, when you first have thunderstorms, it's a pretty tense situation for your dog. So don't be surprised if your dog doesn't wake up if we have a thunderstorm tonight. However, I've got to tell you, it, my dogs snore. My dogs have started to snore. Now, Donna thinks they imitate me, but my dogs snore, and sometimes they snore so loud that they snore as loud as a human. Does your dog ever snore?
No, but he'll start twitching or barking or howling in his sleep sometimes.
Oh yeah, the Duke used to do that. Where right, they're having a dream, and all of a sudden they become animated, and they're kicking, and they're growling, and they're barking, and then they wake up and they look around, and it's like, oh, it's just you, and then they go back to sleep. They do that as well, but Sophie especially. Sophie, of course, is the bigger dog, the white Akbash that we have, and she will basically sit there. She'll lay there and snore, and you hear her, and it's so loud that it's just hard to believe. So Luna does it as well, but Luna's a little smaller, so you don't notice it as much. We have a couple of callers, so let's go to those callers. Good morning, you're on the air. Morning.
Oh wait,
You're on the air.
sorry.
Whoops.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Or maybe not.
Maybe not.
We might be having issues again.
Oh boy. All right, let's take a look and see while we're working through those issues. I'll keep on talking. Folks, keep on calling. We're going to work through the issues again. You know, a lot of time, a lot of money being invested in WJOB. We've moved locations. We've moved the control room. So there's a lot going on, and it does take some time to work out the bugs. So bear with us as we work through some of those bugs. But again, when it comes to dogs, I just find it amazing that you can have a dog that can be so animated that they can basically in the middle of their sleep start snoring like a human. And I find it remarkable. And as Lynette said, sometimes they have dreams and they become animated as well. They think that they're running or they're barking and chasing another dog. And of course, my dogs can't wait until I'm done with the radio this morning so I can take them to the dog park and they can go out and see all their friends. Just keep an eye on your dog tonight if we have a thunderstorm. As we were talking before John Doherty, there's obviously a lot of concern about Iran, and that is front and center in the United States and probably everywhere else right now, because as much as we hope and pray things work out to everyone's benefit, we just don't know. Yes, militarily we can crush Iran, but what we can't crush is the next despot, the next person that basically takes over and creates mayhem for us, and that worries me. And it also worries me about these sleeper cells that we've been told by every administration, Democrat and Republican, for years that we have sleeper cells that exist in the United States. And again, it's a concern. We haven't seen them yet, except for the one individual who apparently acted alone and wasn't part of a sleeper cell in Austin, Texas. But that's a concern. And then you've got the bigger question of what happens after we destroy Iran's military. What happens in Iran? Who leads it? Who takes it over? What are their views? How are they going to function as a country? Do we end up being on the hook in trying to rebuild Iran? And our nation building skills have been pretty awful since World War II. We've not done a great job. And so that's a cause for concern. And then locally close to home, you still have the NIPSCO issue, which has been a huge issue in Northwest Indiana, but it got overshadowed by all of a sudden by what I consider to be the perfect issue, which was let's go bring the Bears to Northwest Indiana, and everybody all of a sudden forgot that their NIPSCO bills were just out of control, and everybody wanted to talk about where the Bears ought to be. And so my question is, we're at the end of the legislative session for the year. What did we accomplish other than the Bears? What have we done for residents of Northwest Indiana? And I'm going to invite Dan and Lonnie to come back on, two state senators that I'm friends with, and have them on in early April to talk about where we're at. So 845-1100, we've got another caller. Let's hope this works this time. Good morning, you're on the air. Good morning. Well, I guess it's not working too well. So I apologize, folks. I don't know what's going on. We had everything working, and again, it's new technology and new setup. So I'll continue to talk. And sounds like we got somebody now. Good morning. You're on the air.
Nope, that was my bad. Nope,
that was you.
Yeah, still nothing.
Okay. Well, again, it's a little difficult sometimes, but I always say that talk radio is all about the callers. So when we don't have callers, or we don't have the ability to listen to the callers, it's like, well, then what are we doing? Only kidding. It's just problematic. We'll have to work through it. In the meantime, we get back to this issue of Northwest Indiana and the Bears. And look, it would be great to have the Chicago Bears in Northwest Indiana. There's no doubt about it. I live in Whiting, Robertsdale. If I could walk to the Chicago Bears to a game, wow, what a phenomenal situation for me and everybody else. The likelihood is still relatively low, but it would be something that again, I think most people would want. I think that it's a little difficult for me to explain why some people want to beat up on Tom McDermott and claim that either he stole the Bears from another community, or that he basically should be blamed because they're coming here, or blamed because it's going to we don't know the details of how much it's going to cost us tax wise. I really think that this is a guy that was along for the ride. He wasn't steering the ship. He wasn't in charge. He was along for the ride, and he did the right thing. If you're the mayor of Hammond, if you're the mayor of any city in Northwest Indiana, and the Bears say that they're interested in approaching your community, you're going to definitely do it. So I see some text here. The only question I have is, if we do that, what are we going to do about the chamber show then?
Yeah, no, end this show. We won't have any callers on the chamber show.
I get you. So we'll end this show.
Yes.
And then why don't we just continue to talk? Why don't you and I talk this morning, since we can't take calls? So let me ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot, Lynette. You're a great producer because you kind of stay in the background and work on the technology. But first off, let me ask you, this idea of bringing the Bears to Northwest Indiana. Okay. You're not a big sports fan. I know that doesn't make a lot of difference to you, but from an economic development standpoint, it would be a big win for Northwest Indiana, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, but at the same time, when you start to read into the details, it sounds like they expect the taxpayer to, basically pay the freight on this one. They're going to put taxes on food and beverage. So if you're a local business owner, if you own a business in Hammond or East Chicago or Whiting, Munster, Highland, you probably would see some effect of having the Bears here. Now, let me expand that. What if your business is in Lowell? What if your business is in Crown Point, or it's in Maryville, or it's in Portage? How do you feel about those kinds of taxes?
I've been hearing also that apartments around there will also rise in cost. I think that's really unfair and unnecessary. I don't really understand why this has to be done if it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, they're a private entity. The Chicago Bears is a private entity. It's basically a private company. Yes, it's very publicly known, but the McCaskey family own a team that's worth anywhere from $4 to $6.5 billion, and they want public dollars. They want taxpayers to help pay for their operation. It would be like, you asking taxpayers to pay for your car, for example, right? You pay for your car yourself. The taxpayers aren't paying for it. In fact, you pay taxes on your car. So why should you own a piece of property called the Bears and have all of us pay for it? Does that make a lot of sense?
Sorry, there's been a lot of issues. There's been a lot of issues
Does that
today.
make sense to you? That you own something, but taxpayers are going to help pay for it.
Mhm.
That doesn't seem right.
Mm-mm.
It's kind of like the same argument that exists with NIPSCO. And NIPSCO is becoming more and more expensive. And again, the people that work for NIPSCO are good people. I understand that, but this argument that we need to pay all these delivery charges and all these additional charges so that they can upgrade their system, that's kind of like saying, well, when the next time you need a car, that somebody else should pay for you to buy a new car. All right. That isn't the case. I mean, if you own the car and you need to upgrade it, you need to repair it, you need to fix it, you need to replace it, why should you expect others to pay for that? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And it really comes down to that kind of simple analogy of Lynette's car. Lynette has a great car, and it's clean. It's probably still the cleanest in the parking lot, even though it's right next to Smith Chevy. It's probably cleaner than any of the cars they have out there. But why should taxpayers pay for you to say upgrade your car? Let's say you wanted to put the flaps on from WeatherTech or something. I mean, you wouldn't expect other people to pay for that. You pay for it yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you own a home, you want to make improvements, you pay for those. So why should we have to pay for improvements for NIPSCO? And I'm trying to think of who it was, but somebody said recently, NIPSCO is a monopoly. You can't be both. You can't be all about profit and income and be a monopoly at the same time. So part of the reason for utility monopolies is that the concept is that they wouldn't have to worry about competition, but in return, they would have they provide lower cost services, and the cost of NIPSCO bills has just climbed to be almost impossible for people. The fact that people are, sitting there wondering how they're going to pay their NIPSCO bill versus paying for food and for housing is terrifying to me. And I think that it's an issue that hasn't been solved. It's an issue that basically went away because once again we had the perfect storm. Let's focus about the Bears instead of focus about what's really important to us. At the end of the day, if the Bears come to Hammond, if they come to any community in Northwest Indiana, does that make a difference in the lives of each individual to the extent that the cost of NIPSCO utility bills are making? And I think the answer is no. If the Bears play in Northwest Indiana and they build a stadium, that's great, but that still doesn't affect me the way the NIPSCO increases have. And as I mentioned before, Lynette, if you came down and were to visit Florida right now, you would see that most of their infrastructure, most of the distribution system is mounted on concrete and steel reinforced poles. They've taken great care that the fasteners and connectors that they use even to hang all the wiring is designed so that it can withstand these horrible hurricanes and tropical storms that they have down here. But they invested in that without asking the customers in Florida to pay for it. Florida Power and Light basically is the company. They have invested in weatherproofing their system to no end. I mean, I'm looking right out at it. I can see, concrete and steel reinforced telephone poles that will withstand, 100-mile-an-hour winds. In Northwest Indiana, NIPSCO saying, well, we need to do the same thing. We need to upgrade our systems. We haven't upgraded our systems since the 1940s in some cases. There's a substation in Northwest Indiana up in Whiting, Robertsdale, just off of Five Points, that goes down constantly. It goes down an average of 5 or 6 times a year. NIPSCO engineers have said to me, well, Tom, we need to replace that station, and they're going to next year. But again, you let it sit for the better part of 70, 80 years without investing in it. And they've showed me that one engineer actually showed me the inside of it and said, look, the technology that's in there, the switching gear and the transformers, some of which goes back to the late 1940s. All right, that's unfortunate, and no one should electricity has to be reliable. But why should we have to pay for those improvements that they failed to do over the last 70 or 80 years? To me, that's where the problem lies. We should, we paid our bills all these years. Instead of focused on profits, they should have been focused on making improvements. After all, they're a public utility. We let them exist so they don't have competition, and in return, they should be investing in quality upgrades to their system, and they're not. And you don't see that in other areas of this nation. And then you have the issue of increased demand from these data centers. And I like what President Trump said last week in his State of the Union address, that data centers would be able to generate their own electricity. Maybe that's a partial solution to the problem of increased demand, but at the same time, it still doesn't solve the problem in Northwest Indiana. And we've gone through an entire legislative session without a solution to the problem that exists. So those NIPSCO bills, folks, largely are going to continue to rise. They're going to continue to be a lead weight around our necks collectively. And it'll be next year before we see any change, if at all. And by then, the damage is done. You've got thousands of people who can't basically pay their utility bills right now because of all these ridiculous increases in service charges. And we're worried about whether the Chicago Bears show up in Hammond. And that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And Lynette, I'm assuming that it doesn't make a lot of sense to you either.
Nope.
Let me ask you. I mean, have your parents complained about their NIPSCO bills?
They have. I actually mentioned it to them since we keep bringing it up, and they're like, "Yeah, our bills went up too." I mean, everyone's did, but.
I mean, I looked at my last bill, and here I'm down in Florida. The temperature in my home is at 55 degrees. The hot water heater shut off, and I can't believe the size of the bill. I mean, yes, it's lower than if I were there, but still, you're talking about again, keeping a temperature at 55 degrees. That's pretty low temperature. The home is pretty well insulated, yet I'm going to pay a fortune. I'm paying hundreds of dollars a month, and then I get my bill and I look at it, and it's not the usage, it's these delivery fees that are so enormous. And the delivery fees, again, are supposed to be used to improve the system. But why did they improve the system over the last 80 years? They've had years and years of income. They should have used those dollars to improve the system then, not say, well, now we have to start improving the system. It's a little late, if you ask me, to make that justification. That money should have been invested years ago into upgrades. There's got to be some other ways to do it. Maybe NIPSCO needs to put an assessment on, new business or new expansion. Data centers are very profitable. Maybe they need to have additional dollars flowing into NIPSCO coffers for the data centers to offset some of these service charges that we're being hit with. It's just wrong. And there's no real end in sight for this. Again, we're getting to the end of the legislative session, and I know that a lot of people like to, bring up Frank Mervan. There are a lot of people that like him. There are a lot of people that don't. But people are blaming Frank Mervan for the NIPSCO bills, and of all of the components that go into the NIPSCO rate increases, I've got to say Congress, my congressman, I really don't see them as a significant player. Yes, he voted for the big green deal, which was a waste of money. You can blame him there, but really and truly, did Frank Mervan cause the problem with NIPSCO? It's basically, it's not right to blame somebody who really had a very limited role in the process. And I know I'm saying that, and people are like, Tom, what's going on? I'm just stating a fact. I think there's a lot of other criticisms you can make about Frank Mervan, but I don't think you can blame him for the NIPSCO increase. So, where we end up a year from now frightens me, because there are people who are talking about not moving to Indiana now because of our utility rates. There are people who are talking about moving out of Northwest Indiana because of the utility rates. And that's frightening, because for years we've tried to position Northwest Indiana as this place that you want to move to. You can enjoy living in a metropolitan area. You can be, just footsteps away from downtown Chicago and all of its cultural and entertainment offerings, and good paying jobs. But you can go back to Northwest Indiana where it's safe and it's economical. And all of a sudden it's hard to say, well, it's economical to live in Northwest Indiana when your utility bills are twice the size of everybody else's. That's not economic. It's frightening to me. And I think this could be the undoing of the quality of life that we have in our communities collectively in Northwest Indiana. We have so much to offer and so much to lose if we don't do things correctly. And having the Bears here isn't going to draw a lot of people to live in Northwest Indiana. Having reliable, economical utilities will draw people in Northwest Indiana. There are a lot of people that move to Northwest Indiana because of the quality of our water. That's great, but if you can't afford the electricity to run your refrigerator, you're not going to have that cold glass of water, I guess, because that's where we're headed, and it's just dangerous. I do want to point out a couple of guests that I'm going to have coming up in the next few weeks. Mayor McDermott has said he will come on at some point. He's got some restrictions on talking about the Bears until the legislative session is completely over. So he's got to wait until those restrictions are no longer in place. I am going to extend an invitation to Frank Mervan once again to come on. As long as he comes on, he takes calls. I have no problem with that. I've also spoken to Barb Regnitz, who is most likely his opponent on the Republican side. Spoke to her last week. She's very interested in coming on and telling people about what she has to offer as an alternative to Frank. So have her on. We'll probably have a couple of candidates on, especially as it relates to the sheriff's race before the primary, because the sheriff's race largely is most likely over after the primary. So we'll have some guests on again. We've had some of the candidates on previously. We'll have them on again. And as I said before, I'd like to have Dan Drenelk and Lonnie Randolph on as state senators to talk about the end of the legislative session, and especially to talk about the issue with NIPSCO. So I've got all of those individuals lined up for the next few weeks as soon as they get back into town and as soon as everybody is able and willing to come on again. Obviously, it's impossible for state senators to come on while they're still in session, and even after the session ends, there's a lot of conference committees and last minute responsibilities before they really get out of Indianapolis and come back up and talk on the air. And I recognize that. And then again, as I mentioned, Mayor McDermott said he'd come on, but he's got some limits as to when he can come on to talk about the Bears issue. So we'll have a chock full of guests. And I shouldn't forget that most likely we'll have the Bishop of Gary, Bishop Robert McClory, come on just before Easter, kind of a tradition on this show to have him come on and talk about the importance of Easter and the celebration of the Easter holiday. So we'll have all that coming up. in the next couple of weeks as well. And Lynette, I'll be back in person to be able to comment about the cleanliness of your car on a regular basis. I know you can't wait for that. It's something that you've been missing in your life for the last 8 weeks or so.
I did
So I'll be
actually.
back in person.
Unfortunately, I wasted your gift card that you got me because the very next day we had that ash rain that covered everyone's car in dust.
Yeah, that was weird. That was a weird event. So basically, I saw the photos, and I think you had mentioned it briefly that it just came down and just covered everything with this kind of yucky soot, if you will. And but I'm sure that it didn't stick to your car because that car is so clean. So it didn't last very long. Tell you what, why don't we do this? Why don't we take a break? Get situated for the Chamber of Commerce show. I think they're there, correct?
I think so.
And we will come back and do the Chamber of Commerce show, folks. I'm sorry about the phone lines. Just one of those things. We're doing some transitional work to bigger and better things at WJOB. So thanks for being patient and understanding. And hopefully next week, no problems with the phones. Either taking the calls or a delay or dropping the calls. But again, we're working on upgrades. So sometimes improvements can be challenging, and it's always great to be here with you. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll come back to the Whiting Roberts Sale Chamber of Commerce show right here on WJOB 1230 AM and 104.7 FM.
Before Notre Dame Federal Credit Union, we were being charged various maintenance fees and various check writing fees for all of our accounts. And with Notre Dame, we don't have that. We have that true community partnership. We get interest based on all